In this video, we're going to take a look at the 2010 Taylor's Technology Wood Higher Level Section A. In question 1, you're asked to name the woodworking tools shown in the diagram. That's a marking gauge, and what is the tool used for? The marking gauge is used to mark the bottom line of a trench. Question 2, you've asked to identify the 3 trees that the leaves come from. So the first one is birch, difficult enough to identify. The second one is oak, and the third one is beech. In question 3, the diagram shows a coping saw. You're asked to identify what force is acting on the blade. So the blade is under tension, so it's been stretched in 2 different directions. So that's going to provide tension. In question 4, you're asked to identify 3 raw materials that are necessary for photosynthesis to take place. Photosynthesis needs carbon dioxide, it needs sunlight, and it needs water. That's 3 examples. Question 5, the diagram shows the cross section of a tree. You're asked to name the labelled parts A and B. A is the lighter outer sapwood, B is the darker inner heartwood. The tools shown in question 6, they're called long nose pliers, and what they would be used for, they can be used for cutting panel pins, or they can be used for gripping small parts like small nuts and bolts and the like. Question 7, you're given a list of trees and you're asked to identify whether they're hardwoods or softwoods. Ash is a hardwood, birch is a hardwood, holly is a hardwood. Douglas fir and Sitka spruce are softwoods. Question 8, you're asked to state safety precautions that you would use when using the different tools. So an example would be, if you're changing the blade on the jigsaw, you'd need to plug out the machine when you'd be changing the blade. The electric drill, you'd need to be wearing goggles when drilling wood or concrete. The orbital sander, you would want to be wearing a dust mask when sanding to protect yourself from the dust. In question 9, you're shown the life cycle of the common wood-borne beetle. At what stage is the most damage done to the wood? The larva stage is the stage that causes the damages to wood. That's the stage when they eat through the wood and leave all the little holes behind them. The method of conversion shown in the diagram on the right hand side is quarter sawn, and the grain pattern that it produces in oak when it's sawn in that method is called silver grain. On the right hand side you see a picture of a router, that's the power tool. And what is the purpose of the router? So it can be used to mould an edge. So there's a wee sketch of what moulding would look like. Rebating an edge, there's a wee sketch of rebating, or removing a groove, there's a small sketch of a groove. Identify 2 ways in what it can and how a computer can be used when working on a junior cert project. So it can be used to help draw the project using SolidWorks or other appropriate programs. It also can be used to type up the project folder using Word or Google Docs or another program like that. Question 13, you're asked to identify the manufactured board on the right hand side. It's plywood. Give 2 advantages of using plywood instead of solid wood. So it's available in very large sheets, which come in 2.4 by 1.2 meter size. It's a stable board, it doesn't shrink or swell very much, and is also relatively cheap compared to solid wood. In question 14, there's a list of different saws, and you're asked to identify whether they cut straight cuts or curved cuts. So a dovetail saw cuts straight, a circular saw cuts straight, and a rip saw cuts straight. A band saw and a scroll saw, they cut curved cuts. Brass is an alloy of 2 metals. Name the 2 metals that are used to make brass. So copper and zinc are used to make brass. And an example would be where you would have handles on doors. It's also a metal that doesn't rust. So dry rot in question 16 is a common form of decay in wood. State 2 conditions necessary for dry rot to occur. So you need a certain amount of heat and you also need moisture. And another condition would be where it would be in an area where there'd be very stagnant air. Question 17. This sketch was unfinished. Up at this area here, I finished it off using a pen, and this area here had to be finished off. I used a pen. You'd probably be better off using a pencil. In question 18, what is the layer called? So when you get a log and there's a very thin layer cut off it, it's called a veneer. What is the method of peeling the thin layer off the log? It's called rotary cutting. The diagram shows the pulley mechanism, which is used to change the speed of the pillar drill. So the motor shaft is this lower one, and the spindle shaft is that one, and the red represents the pulley that would provide the minimum speed. In question 20, you have a birdhouse shown in the diagram, and you have a cutting list with a number of missing measurements on it. So the base, it's 150 long, there's 150. They're asking you, what is the width? It's 130. That's the width from that corner to that corner. The front, there's one front. There's no other piece the same size as that, so there's only one of them. The sides, there's two of them. They're 240 long and they're 70 wide. Now the measurement from here to here is 100. So the sides only go from those 2 points there. So that piece is 15 and that piece is 15 because it says up here that all the material is 15 millimeters thick. So if you add those two 15s, you get 30. You take it away from 100, that's where the 70 comes from. The roof is 165 by 150 and it's 15 millimeters thick. Again, all the material is 15 millimeter thick. The dowel rods, from the end of the dowel rod to the face of the wood, it's 35 plus it has to go into the wood, 15 millimeters into the wood. So you add another 15 to the 35 to get the 50 here. That completes the 2010 exam paper.